What did you do? You kicked us out. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Mary?
Hello?
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me? Annie, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
Oh, but Mary can't hear us.
Is that you in that background that there's people building stuff? Because, girl, I swear I hear people building stuff in the background.
Yes, that's me. Can't do anything about that.
Mary, Mary is the issue.
Is Michelle joining in?
Yes, Michelle was actually over in the main stage, so I'm actually waiting for her to come back.
Okay.
She should be here shortly, but my concern right now is Mary. So I know that people are actually in the room, and Michelle. So
Hi,
Okay, so I
Michelle.
know you guys can hear
Hi.
me, but I cannot hear anything.
Oh,
So
no.
I might have to log back out and then maybe come back in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me do that.
okay,
That
so
has happened to me before, and I had to restart my device.
yeah,
Sometimes it works.
so
Just, start and, again, probably.
right. So while we're waiting on Mary, and we have some audience members in the room, so can you please introduce yourselves and let us know where you are based? Yvonne, you might have to mute when you're not speaking, because I told you, I swear it sounds like someone's building a house in your background. Because I was like, okay. When I heard the banging, I was like, all righty then. So I don't know if Yvonne, since you're on mute. So Michelle, we'll let you get started. I haven't seen you
I
since
know.
forever, girl. Mary,
I can
Mary,
hear
are
you.
you hearing us now?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right, so
Great.
let me just start. I'll do this little start, and then I'm gonna bounce and let you take over. So I haven't seen Michelle in like forever.
I know.
We were supposed to be in London, kicking
Yes.
it, doing all kinds of amazing things, and now here we are virtually for the rest of the year.
I know. Imagine, girl. That's terrible, but lovely to see you.
I know. So it's
Yeah.
been great to see you. Go ahead and jump into the session, Mary, and I'll be in and out.
Fab.
Okay. Well, thank you, Annie, so much for that introduction. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the
Hi.
session on blockchain and digital spaces. It's going to be an opportunity to learn about. is and what exactly exists currently in digital spaces. So my name is Mary Olushoga, and I'm founder of AWP Network. We're a platform that supports women entrepreneurs throughout the continent of Africa. And then I'm going to leave it up to Yvonne and Michelle to do a kind introduction of themselves and the work that they do. And it's going to be an opportunity for us to learn more from them. So Yvonne, I'll have you get started first.
Thank you for having me. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
My name is Yvonne Kagondu. I am based in Nairobi, Kenya. I'm a blockchain consultant. I work with many blockchain parties here in Nairobi and many entrants here into Africa. I work with several companies such as Paxful, Eternity Africa, Bitcoin Kenya, Zippy, eWallet, quite a number actually. Yeah. And I'm actually very happy to be part of Awit. My career journey actually started here in Awit when I came for Awit.
Nice.
It did. When I came for Awit 2018, I made networks there that actually led to my first job at Google Digital Skills for Africa. So I'm so excited to be here and also to meet Michelle. I've been following your work.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you. Thanks so much.
Okay, Michelle, over to you.
Sure, fantastic. No, lovely to connect, Yvonne. Thanks for that. It's a real pleasure to be here. I kind of wear several hats, really. I think on the blockchain side. So I've been looking at blockchain for quite a long time, since around sort of 2010, 2009, 2009, around there, where I was more specifically playing around with cryptocurrency. But ever since then, I have been doing quite a lot of research around blockchain and trying to understand this space. I run my own digital and blockchain company, which is based here in the UK, but we're certainly not just covering the UK. We're very, very global. We'll be doing a lot of work, especially in emerging markets. Africa, a very, very strong market for us, and we'll be doing quite a lot in Africa. Our company really specializes around building, blockchain solutions, but also really educating around the potential for blockchain and other emerging technologies like AI and big data and all the others. But our core focus really at the moment is actually trying to educate and work with with government, central banks, and others to try and understand this space, as well as working with women's groups as well. Which again, I'm very, very excited about being here today, because I think the women can actually play a massive role in this space, and we want more women to come into this space. So thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. And thank you very much to Yvonne and Michelle for that introduction. So for those people who may not be aware and who may be part of this conversation, what should they know about blockchain? Like, what is blockchain? For people who might not know what it is or might not be aware of what it is.
Sure. Do you want me to pick that? I'm happy to start.
Absolutely.
Feel free to add. I think blockchain, I like to think of it as as a tool that enables us to do things slightly faster, better. And I like to think of it as more of a digital book, if you like. So blockchain is like a digital book of records where you can input data into that blockchain and utilize that data. So almost kind of picturing it as like a platform where you interact and you can do a lot of different things. And using this platform or this digital book, you're able to store, and exchange value. And value, of course, comes in different forms. It could be in monetary forms, it could be in information, as in data, and it could be in all sorts of different formats. And that platform or that tool just allows you to be able to exchange and transfer and share data or value in a more transparent in a more transparent manner. And it also allows for that level of efficiency to come in as well, sort of cost savings and a whole range of other things. So, putting it very, very simply, and I like to explain it in very simple, simple terms, because it helps me understand, is very much around looking at it as a digital book of records. And with those book of records, if you like to think of it, the reason it's called kind of blockchain is a little bit deceiving, by, kind of taking blocks of data, which are kind of chained or linked to each other, hence creating the blockchain, and utilizing that as a mode to transact and interact with a range of different players within the system. Now, the advantages, I think, in order to understand the advantages of blockchain as well, because it is kind of distributed network, so you have different players or what we call nodes or computers that are interacting with one another. And each of those computers are seeing exactly the same version of that digital book or that digital letter with the information in it. So it's the same version, and all the parties within the blockchain can see the same version of the digital ledger, which they can interact and transact with. It also has this network effect where you have all the different players who are on to, who have access to this digital book. All of them, have a part of a community or a network. So it's based, all agreements or rules that come out of that interaction is actually based on consensus that's agreed by these different parties or people who are within this group. Very, very important. So we don't necessarily have to sit and wait for a third party, for example, in blockchain to give, authority or, to let us do certain things like a bank or a government. You can very much interact as a network and gain consensus as a result. But I'll leave to Yvonne maybe to add some other stuff.
That was quite detailed.
Maybe I could add, when I was starting out, there's someone who explained to me in a sort of way I could relate to. He told me, you can see Instagram, the way Instagram is built. The first thing that happens is that you have an image on your phone, and then you move that image onto a platform and sort of creates copies of the same image, which is shared amongst many people. So in sort of implementing blockchain technology into it, the same image is saved on every person's phone. So everyone is able to verify this image, and you can't really change all of it. So that's how blockchain is, and sort of information decentralized, distributed ledgers that everyone has to verify. Yeah, that's my simple explanation.
Thank you very much for that. I just want to put a reminder out there that if you have questions, please free to type them in the chat box, and also do not forget to tweet AWIT Digital Society 20 if you're on Twitter or if you're on any social media platform. So some people have argued that blockchain technology could be quite expensive and time consuming. Is that the case? Because in the technology space that we live in, things are moving extremely fast, very quickly. New technologies are coming in and things are constantly changing. But, I've read that, some people have argued that blockchain could really get expensive and very time consuming. What are your thoughts about that? Maybe Yvonne will have you go first.
In terms of expensive, I don't personally believe it's expensive. Take note that blockchain has been around since Bitcoin was formed in 2008. It's just been slightly past a decade. Technologies are not meant to make things expensive. For example, a technology like social media, Facebook, initially only brands would market on mass media like televisions, radio, and they would spend a lot of money. But in Facebook, Instagram, you find small brands actually have a chance to market their items very cheaply, actually. And blockchain comes in to sort of even remove the middleman and make things actually cheaper. So I don't believe it should be expensive. Technologies are there to make things more convenient, cheaper, and more suitable for the society. Maybe Michelle could add on that.
Yeah, sure. No, absolutely. I think we have to kind of differentiate between blockchain and maybe Bitcoin mining. And using, sort of I kind of undertaking Bitcoin mining might be the bit that people are thinking is quite expensive in terms of usage, for example, for computational power. Yes, maybe there's certain elements or issues around that bit, but then let's kind of segment it a little bit. Because when you're talking about blockchain, you're speaking more widely about the underlying technology. Now that underlying, and that's where Bitcoin comes from, which is a cryptocurrency.
Right.
So that underlying technology itself has so many other functionalities apart from just the Bitcoin or the cryptocurrency. So certain aspects of it, yes, you can argue that maybe there's issues around, how expensive it is, its usage around energy and things, and how do you control that? But in terms of actually the blockchain itself and the underlying technology, what that does is, back to what Mary was saying about how it really is, results into more cost-effective ways of doing things and making it a little bit more transparent, for example, for people to do things, which results in actual cost savings rather than it being expensive. Now, in terms of building or developing your own blockchain from scratch, if you like, again, can be expensive, because you're looking for the right skills and talent that can come in and maybe build this particular type of blockchain or smart contract or whatever it is that you're talking about. So we have to put it in different respects, I think. But certainly, I think it has massive opportunities, like Yvonne was saying.
Okay, so we have a question from David, and Michelle or Yvonne could ask this question. And the question says, how do you see blockchain use cases evolving on the African continent? What use cases can you see right now?
Maybe I could start on that. In Africa, we've had many task force, like in Kenya, we had a task force dedicated to how blockchain would be used in Kenya especially. And there've been so many talks on how we can put land on a sort of decentralized network. We've had projects of people trying to put agribusiness, as was mentioned in a previous session, like flower plantations, something like coffee in Ethiopia is being used, is trying to be incorporated in the blockchain network. But this is mostly being used in governments. Yeah, this is using like on a higher level. But what we found actually here in Kenya especially, and maybe some cases most significant part of Africa, that it's actually gone down because we have a high amount of youth unemployment here in Africa and Kenya as well. So what we found is that there are many youths who are actually using the technology, say, like, especially with the cryptocurrencies in blockchain, to create income for themselves, because there's been a large, Africa is actually second to crypto adoption in the world. We found that many youths have actually used it to try and make a living for themselves using platforms like, for example, Paxful. Paxful has a peer-to-peer sort of Bitcoin trading, trying to find ways where they can actually make an income, being community managers. Careers have developed from that. So in Africa right now, what we're seeing is that it's actually creating employment and empowerment opportunities for the youth.
Absolutely. I think I can add to that, Yvonne. Absolutely. In terms of use cases, there are several areas. I think we talked about land and, title deeds, if you like, and placing sort of ownership of these physical assets, land or whatever, property, and using the blockchain, for example, to tie ownership to those properties. And you can record that data or that information onto a blockchain. And the thing about a blockchain as well, once you put that information onto the blockchain, then it's very, very difficult to kind of take that away. So the ownership is locked, if you like, to myself. If I own land in Zambia or on land in Kenya, then I can have that, guarantee that ownership kind of belongs to me, and you can track that ownership by placing, land and property and other assets as title deeds. That's very, very important, I think, in terms of, for example, not necessarily just empowerment, but also in terms of, sort of financial inclusion and ownership of wealth. Which I think is absolutely critical. So, by being able to do this, you're able to ensure that people, who own their stuff, actually you can almost prove that ownership belongs to X. In a lot of our communities, I think across Africa, we've had issues around who owns what land, what property, families fighting for land, for property, for this and that, so I think it's very, very important use case on the African context, but there are many others as well. When you're talking about, for example, food, we have in Africa, of course, an issue around things like food security, but also in really understanding in terms of where our food is sourced, how much are we pricing our food. When you're talking about trade, for example, and we're starting to sell tomatoes or oranges left, right, and center, how can we start to manage that process? So across the supply chain, again, blockchain can play a really important role to open up the supply chain, be a bit more transparent, to say, okay, where's that food coming from? So the provenance of the food, you can use blockchain to track the provenance of where things are coming from. What's in the food? Is it really organic? Is it healthy enough? And then how are we shipping these, products and services that we're selling in different markets? At what price? Are we getting a fair price? Are the local farmers, who are a lot of local farmers in Africa, small scale farmers, are they getting the right price? Are they getting a fair price? So you can utilize the blockchain to allow for that greater transparency and also, allow for more competitiveness. And it's being used across different sectors. Like Yvonne said, in Africa, we are kind of second, especially around crypto. There's a lot of opportunity, I think, that comes with many, many use cases, and governments and central banks and others are already exploring blockchain for several other use cases as well.
We have another question from the audience, which says, what are some specific and practical ways businesses, small businesses, SMEs are applying or utilizing blockchain technology in their businesses? And how can people who are attending this session right now leverage on blockchain technology to help enhance their businesses? So maybe Yvonne, you want to take that. How can blockchain technology help to enhance small business? Whether it's with productivity, whether it's with process and all of that.
I think Yvonne is muted, Mary.
Sorry. I was talking to myself. Sorry. Please, if you could repeat the question. Hello, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Yvonne. I think she was asking how SMEs can utilize blockchain, and people who are on the channel now, how they can also leverage and utilize blockchain.
Okay. First, I'd like to say that. But can Mary hear me?
I don't know.
Oh my God, sorry. Okay. Maybe just addressing to Michelle and the audience. I'd first say that specifically to the audience attending, I believe the most important bit to start with in the blockchain space is education. Just learn about blockchain. Take your time. Don't just, there's a lot of hype in blockchain. So what happens is that people jump on it thinking that they'll make a lot of money. A lot of misconception is happening. Actually, in one of the companies I consult for Bitcoin K, we have weekly sessions on training people what are the practical and real use cases here in Kenya for blockchain. So what is important is to take time and learn what blockchain does and how we can use it to specific cases, because blockchain won't be the same as every other system. We can use blockchain in small businesses. We can say, oh, we'll take Bitcoin instead of, can you, Mary is back?
Yes.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
So I was saying that what is important, especially to the people listening in right now, is taking time and learning about blockchain. Take your time, don't just jump into it. There's a huge hype for blockchain right now, and what needs to be done is for to take their time. Like, for example, I've dealt with a lot of people saying, oh, this company has reached out to me, so they're called BitClubs, they're called this name, and when you hear the business model, it's you see that really that sounds more of a pyramid scheme instead of blockchain. There's this whole I don't know how to call it. There's this whole cloud that it's a lot of misconceptions and misinformation in this space. So to the audience, I'd say maybe you spend a lot of time learning about it before taking a deep dive into blockchain.
Yeah. Did you want me to add on that, Mary? I think if you're
I think she really did a good job explaining that. I want to delve a little bit into. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I wanted to delve a little bit into. Okay. So I wanted to delve a little bit into a conversation we were having yesterday, and that is cybersecurity. As more people are working from home and a lot of work is remote, how does blockchain basically help to enhance security? Whether it's cybersecurity, especially as we pertain to people who are working from home, how can more companies employ, protect them with their business process.
Yeah. Sure, thank you. I'll pick that up, Mary. I think just to add a little bit on what Yvonne was saying around how businesses can leverage blockchain, especially SMEs. I think, it's really important, for example, SMEs to tap on blockchain-based products and services for your business. For example, if you are trading internationally and you're using payment systems or payment platforms, you can have cost savings by utilizing blockchain-based payment systems, which are with reduced fees and a whole range of other things. But internally, even within your own system, which picks up on the security stuff that Mary is just asked us around cybersecurity. But when you're looking at your own systems that you have within your organization and how secure are those systems, so you see, blockchain works is based on cryptography. The usage of cryptography or programming, and that gives it a little bit more security in terms of what you're using. So you can have security instead of just relying on a central database for your business, which is likely to have a lot more access for hackers to access, for example. You can have a more distributed method through blockchain, which will give you a little bit more security. And once you're storing your information or sensitive information that might belong to your clients, or different people, then you bring in the issue around privacy and the importance of data privacy and the importance of data control. Again, blockchain has a big role to play in terms of securing, information and ensuring that information doesn't end up in the wrong hands. Of course, at the end of the day, I think it's really worthwhile to bear in mind that at the end of the day, with blockchain, there's issue around data. So it's very much, supported by very strong data infrastructure. So the data that you're inputting into the technology itself has to be pretty good quality data, and it's important you ensure that the quality data that goes onto the blockchain can be secured. The platform itself, or the blockchain itself, as a tool, like I said earlier on, can enable to secure that data, ensure that it's protected. But the data that you put in the first place has to be clean and reliable data that will help with security as well. So there are a number of factors, I think, we need to consider around security and cybersecurity.
Maybe I could also add a bit. There's a session I was listening in for Michelle, and she said that blockchain is not supposed to work on its own. You can actually use AI, cybersecurity. It's not going to work. If we're going to use blockchain, we're going to implement most of the things that are already in the market. And also, I'd like to say that when blockchain started, when the whole Bitcoin thing started, it was mostly used in the wrong industry. So governments and people had this whole misconception that Bitcoin and blockchain is for criminals, but that wasn't the case, because in Bitcoin you can actually see people's wallet. What has this person done? How well has this money been moved? Which Bitcoins have been moved today? Where you can actually trace all that. So actually, when you think about it critically, it's actually safer, and it's actually better than what you actually have, because you don't know who's moving money where. Like, we had a case here in Kenya where we discovered that our parliament people are moving money, which they're receiving from aid, they're moving money abroad, and it took a lot for people to expose that. So Bitcoin is and the blockchain network and other cryptocurrencies are actually safer than traditional financial systems.
Okay, so it looks like we have a comment from Joy, and I know, Yvonne, you had spoken extensively on this. She wants if you can provide an in-depth insight on how SMEs can benefit from blockchain, because a lot of people who are attending this session are probably small business owners or people who are looking to start their business. So could you delve more into how SMEs can benefit from blockchain? I know you've already talked about this, but are there anything that you'd like to add?
Yeah, did you want me to pick up? I'm happy to pick up on the SME question. I think, with SMEs, I think one of the things, back to the education point, one of the things that we're doing within our institution is actually providing education on how you leverage technology like blockchain for SMEs. So, SMEs, I think, need to be able to understand, number one, their own internal structures and systems, right? And what it is that they do as a business. So if, for example, you are working with so many multiple different parties across different markets, and you're interacting with so many different groups, it's very hard to manage and track what is going on, and your relationship with all those different parties. Again, blockchain can play a really, huge role to enable you to do whatever it is that you're doing. So if you're a small scale miner, or farmer, and you're selling your tomatoes from A to B, right? And you have to from A to B. It's very difficult to track how those goods are moving from A to B, how much, the pricing is and all that. So for SMEs, I think it gives a greater level of transparency. And they can utilize, sort of channels that they're working with, be it, or we're using payment systems like or we're using payment systems like X, which is helping us to have a lot more transparency in what we're doing as an SME. So you can use your mobile phone, for example, to track and monitor what's happening with your goods and services as they move across the supply chain. If you're selling goods and services from one place to another, it gives you that transparency, but it also saves you a lot of money. Some of the services you're using are blockchain-based services that allow you to transact quicker. So you might not be doing your transaction using traditional fiat money from the bank. You could be using cryptocurrency, like Yvonne was trying to explain. By using that cryptocurrency, you can track all your payments and things that you use, Bitcoin, for example. So there's a greater transparency, and then you can use the tools that already exist in the marketplace today to actually, make your services a little bit faster. But for SMEs as well, SMEs struggle with things like access to finance, and access to investments. So, how do you go and find the right investors, especially for women SMEs or women, in business, find it very hard to get access to finance. We have platforms, blockchain-based platforms that we're developing where investors are on that platform. Through the blockchain, you can do the KYC, on different SMEs who want to access investment. So the blockchain helps to look at, okay, is this SME valid? Can we authenticate this person? Is that KYC up to scratch? Which is very helpful for investors, because investors want to be guaranteed that, what I'm investing in is credible. This SME is likely to grow. I can track what's happening with SMEs. So that platform, again, allows you to connect and maybe access finance that you need, and we can monitor, how your progress as an SME is going. So I think it just provides a lot more connectivity, and access opportunity for SMEs to actually do their business a little bit faster and access new markets as well, because they're trading with faster and more, less expensive platforms.
Perhaps I could also add on the hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hi, we can hear you.
Me or Mary?
No, I could hear Mary, but it's gone faint again. Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to add on the issue of remittances, which is a very big deal here in Africa. We receive a lot of Africa when we trace the remittances that are received through like formal networks like bank transfer and M-Pesa here in Kenya. It's actually quite large, and it's very expensive to send money from diaspora. So with cryptocurrencies and blockchain, as easy as it is to see an image in London, you can receive money at a very cheaper cost, and that would actually be very beneficial. I know there are many businesses here in Kenya that do a lot of importing of stuff and from China, from Dubai. So payment systems could actually be made easier by the blockchain network, and it is being made easier by the blockchain network.
You're on mute, I think, Mary.
This is our new reality.
It's interesting because I'm in New York and I should have better internet, but I don't know what's going on. But just a reminder, if you have questions, please type your question in the chat box. And so I just wanted to speak more about what is available for blockchain. Could you talk about 5 traits which blockchain will impact the digital world or can impact the digital world? It's not like a broad question, but five traits or 5 ways that blockchain actually impacts or will impact the world.
Yeah.
Should I start that one?
Go for it.
Maybe okay, maybe I could just speak of three or two to three. Well, the first one I'd like to say with employment. We're calling it the fourth industrial revolution, where jobs are moving online. And you'd be surprised at the jobs that are actually happening in the blockchain network. Like when you were in university, there used to be a joke that, if you don't do well, you'll become a WhatsApp admin for life. But in the blockchain space, being a Telegram admin, a WhatsApp admin is actually a career that people pursue aggressively, that actually pays well. So the joke is actually on them. And there are actually very many interesting careers that are being developed by the blockchain network. The second thing that I think which would disrupt is, as I mentioned before, payment systems. It's now cheaper to send money across the board. I remember when my friend from South Africa visited Kenya, he didn't even carry his Visa card. He just carried his Bitcoins in his wallet. He came to Kenya, and then all he did, he would sell Bitcoins to the Kenyan market in exchange of Kenyan shillings, which became actually more convenient and more cheaper. He didn't have to enter a bank to change money. All he had to do was change his Bitcoins into M-Pesa, which was actually and the exchange rates were very fair because he could sell at a profit. The third thing that I think it would change, oh God, I've lost it. It's gone. Maybe I could throw it to Michelle as it comes back.
Okay, sure.
No, thanks for that. I think, blockchain is going to have massive impact in so many different sectors.
Absolutely.
Number one, I think if you, in the context of the African, continent here, three areas that I really, speak and I've been championing for a long time, sort of that access to finance that I talked about. A lot of entrepreneurs and SMEs, again, back to SMEs and entrepreneurs on the continent, are not short of ideas. They have fantastic ideas and are implementing, fantastic ideas with very little access to capital and investment. So, I think blockchain has a big role to play in terms of opening up access for them to access the finance that they need, and for them to actually, and for us to actually also go off and build some strong capital markets in Africa, which I think are very, very needed, especially in terms of access to finance for SMEs. That's number one. Number two, when you're looking at the CFTA and the free trade agreement that's coming into force now, to open up borders in order for all of us to trade with each other. I think that's a very exciting initiative that's coming up. And again, blockchain or the digital tools that we have can play a role to make it a little bit easier for us to trade and do business with our neighbors. So again, it's going to have a massive impact in terms of interregional growth for the continent. And that would affect, SMEs and how they trade and do business and exporting and importing. And then probably the third other one that I really want to emphasize is more around talent, which I think Yvonne picked up on very well, in terms of building the next future generation of digital leaders. For example, we need to be able to understand areas like blockchain and data and AI, because we need that talent. And in order to build that talent, we need to educate. So around education is going to have a massive impact. And I think the earlier we can start to educate on things like blockchain, and kind of dispel this myth and this hype and this craziness where everybody's just so focused on Bitcoin and how much is the valuation of Bitcoin today. Oh my God, should I trade in this and that? No, there's more to it than that. There's a lot more to it. And I think we need to be able to start to educate so people understand how to leverage the technology, and I'm talking about the kind of the blockchain and the underlying technology to educate. So the talent and building talent for the continent is important. We have a very youthful continent, very young people on the continent, lots of unemployment going on when it doesn't have to be like that. So, we can invest in this technology and help to shape opportunities in those three areas, I think.
I want to quickly address the question for our session, and that is, what suggestions do you have or resources that you can refer someone looking to learn more about blockchain?
Sure. Do you want to go first? Or?
No, you can start. It's okay.
Go on, over to
Okay. Yeah, sure. No, in terms of, I think there's quite a lot of information out there anyway, even on the internet and things, but you have to be very careful what it is that you're reading. For us, we're providing very bespoke education programs, and helping SMEs and businesses to actually walk them through how to get the right information, credible information, and also to just exchange to different entrepreneurs who are actually using the technology on the ground. So in Africa, in terms of the practical usages around, for example, agribusiness, using kind of mobile-based platforms which are utilizing blockchain to do things, we have access to, our contacts there, and we can very easily kind of connect people. But I think, to emphasize, I think it's more about, working with organizations and institutions to walk them through the education bit, but also practical activities like, okay, how do you go and get my land onto the blockchain, through title deeds, or how do I tokenize, certain aspects of my property or whatever it is. We have kind of processes and systems in place. There's a huge resources around sort of associations that are coming up now that are trying to promote blockchain and raise awareness about what's happening in different parts of the continent on blockchain. Universities again are starting to educate around blockchain. So there's a lot of information resource out there. You just have to know in terms of how to navigate that, and certainly we can help for those that are interested in doing that.
Yeah, which is why when I started the conversation, I asked that you both as experts define what blockchain is, because I think a lot of people really get confused as to what it is and what they should be learning, the information that they should know. So Yvonne, did you have anything to add in terms of resources that are available?
Well, first you can follow us at Bitcoin K. As a start, I usually update blogs on a daily basis. And also I'd like to say that blockchain, as any other internet resource, internet is always changing. So you always have to keep to date, always have to read every day, always be on top of the game. If you're willing to enter the blockchain space, there was blockchain 1.0, which was Bitcoin, then there was blockchain 2.0, which was Ethereum and smart contracts, and it keeps on changing. So it's always good to we call it DYOR, do your own research. So we always encourage people to read, and always scrutinize the information that you're reading. And also, I remembered my final point. I wanted to say that the thing that an industry that would be disrupted is the banking sector. We usually call it banking the unbanked, yeah? In Kenya, for example, we had M-Pesa, which changed the whole industry for good, because we had people keeping money under the mattress and everything. And when M-Pesa came in, 99% of the population has access to it. It's the same thing with blockchain and the whole cryptocurrency network. People are able to keep money and it's able to be traced. And we call it the bottom billion who are unbanked. It will be easier for them to use the blockchain network to find to sort of bank them, quote unquote, and change the whole industry. Yeah, thank you.
Oh, great. One last question for Miriam, and it says, are there practical examples of blockchain used in African agriculture that I can research? I mean, you guys already answered a lot of these questions in your responses. Talked about mobile money. We talked about transparency and helping people understand the supply and value chain. But are there anything else that you'd like to add as a response to that question?
As a response to the agribusiness sector in specific, or?
Yes, as a response to African agriculture.
Okay, in agribusiness specifically, I know for sure that there is currently ongoing sort of flower tracing system here in Kenya, because flowers and horticulture is one of our main exports to the UK and other countries. I know in Ethiopia, they're having coffee, they're trying to trace that. But what we actually came to realize here in Kenya, in the blockchain space, we realized that it's sort of very difficult to sort of implement certain things into African countries for now, at least for now, because of governments. For example, as we even talk about land and governments are not really so open into having so much transparency, because it sort of works against them, especially African governments. So we try and have it on a step-by-step basis. Like right now we do flowers, tomorrow we do something else, yeah? But at the same time, we encourage people to learn about it so that they can also be enrolled in this industrial revolution that's happening and the future careers that are coming up.
Yeah, and just to add quickly, Mary, I think, in terms of actual practical examples, you can utilize, for example, it's a combination of not just blockchain, but when you're utilizing blockchain and AI, for example, to monitor weather patterns, which is really helpful in agriculture and farming. Then you can also utilize blockchain as well, like Yvonne said, to track and trace in terms of payment. But you have, chains like Coffee Chain. I think you've got in the payment side, Kuva Cash. You've got quite a lot of, practical, groups or SMEs that are actually utilizing, the blockchain to do this stuff. So we have a whole range of different names that you can utilize. I think somebody's asking around what are their names and stuff. There's quite a few actually on the African side. But if you look at the Coffee Chain, use case example, you look at Kuva Cash and what they're doing. You look at Bitsoko, what they're doing in Ghana. There's quite a lot, I think, in terms of who are utilizing that in the agribusiness side of things. Others more on land titles and things. So there are many, many use cases. And I think for agribusiness is actually a really good example where blockchain can be used, transferring also to the supply chain as well. Yeah.
Okay, so I just want to ask one final question before our session ends. What's the future for blockchain? Do you have any predictions on what can be improved upon, how Africa continue to be a leader in terms of blockchain technology? Michelle, I know you're doing a very wonderful job in this space, making your voice heard, sharing your knowledge on different panels, having your different institutes. So what do you think is the future for blockchain, and how can Africa continue to be a leading player?
Sure. I'll touch very, very quickly and let Yvonne come in as well. I think the future for blockchain is massive. It's a technology we just kind of don't ignore. In order for the blockchain future to actually really fully, lead to adoption, I think we have an issue around adoption at the moment, partly because people don't have an understanding of how to really utilize the blockchain. There's still a lot of confusion, a lot of hype, a lot of, kind of association with just cryptocurrency and Bitcoin and all that, without really looking at the diamond and the gold that's underneath and how you can utilize that. So I think the future is huge. It's massive. It has massive potential. COVID-19 has actually shown a light for blockchain. It's actually helping blockchain to bring to the fore really good use cases. And I think through case studies and use cases that we see them happening, especially around things like supply chain and agribusiness, people are going to start to warm up to the technology and start to adopt it. In fact, I think the future is not a future where you have a like this where we're talking about blockchain. Blockchain will be very much in the hidden in the background, where you're utilizing decentralized apps, as we call them, that are built on blockchain, but you don't really care or even want to know that it's built on blockchain. It's just doing a certain functionality for you. So it's a massive, massive opportunity. In respect for Africa, I think we really, really kind of blockchain or other emerging technologies. I think it's going to be a massive driver for the growth of Africa if we tackle technology. As we've seen already on the continent with COVID and what's happening, use of robots and AI and all sorts of things, because I think that's going to give us a very nice, unique selling point and almost a leverage against other continents who are struggling with legacy systems and challenges around making sure their systems are interoperable with each other. So the APIs, for example, can they work together with all their different old systems? Africa doesn't have that issue. Africa can leapfrog very, very quickly, as we've seen with the likes of investment and what's happening there, right? So I think in terms of payments, in terms of finance, in terms of access to value chains for the African continent, things like blockchain have to be utilized and have to be understood as well to grow the continent. So massive, massive potential there.
Any last points, Dawn, before we move on to the next step?
My last word is I'd like to say that in the blockchain sector, we have very few women, and I believe the reason would be because I believe most women are risk averse, and when blockchain started, it looked so risky and all. So my last word would be, you don't have to be like so technical to join the blockchain space. You don't have to, I always encourage women, don't be scared, just learn about it. Take your caution when you're joining. It has a space for you as it has a space for me and for everyone else in the sector. So I encourage all women to join this space and let us grow together.
All
Yeah,
right.
that's
Thank
my
you
last word.
all. Thank you all for your time. We look forward to
Thank
seeing you
you.
on the main stage. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you,
Thank
Yvonne. Have
you.
a wonderful day, everyone.
See you later.
Okay. See you. See you.
Bye.